What if the most remarkable commandment in the entire Torah, the entire Bible in fact, is one you've never really heard of? There are, of course, famous ones made famous by other people, great rabbis, great sages. You should love the Lord with all your heart, or you should love the stranger as yourself, or don't wrong the stranger. These are, of course, pillars of biblical faith. But I want to point out one that is pretty obscure. In this week's Torah reading, Parshat Mishpatim, in the book of Exodus, in 23:3, chapter 23, verse 3, the Torah commands what I think is the most important commandment in the entire Bible. It says, when you see the donkey of your enemy lying under a burden, and you would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless raise it with him. Now, there are a couple things here. The first is, you don't think of a donkey as deserving biblical attention. And yet, the Bible does talk about a donkey, and not just any donkey. It talks about the donkey of your enemy. So the challenge is, you might hate the guy who owns that donkey, and you see his beast of burden struggling under a burden, and you say, I don't want to help him because he's a jerk. He did terrible things to me. But you're not allowed to take it out on the donkey. You have to help. And the Bible recognizes your inclination is going to be to run away or ignore it or pretend you didn't see it. But you can't. And finally, you have to raise it not alone, but you've got to raise it with him. So what's going on? Maybe what the Torah is telling us is that we owe people help whether we like them or not. We have to do the right thing whether we like them or not. The animals or the servants or the employees of the people we don't like, you can't blame them for the things that have been done by the people you don't like. And finally, it's not about you doing it by yourself. Your enemy doesn't get to sit back and watch you doing the heavy work. You have to do it together. You too, people who don't necessarily like each other, who have a bad history, you have to do it with them. So, we don't have a lot of donkeys lying under a lot of burdens in the western parts of the world these days. But you know when you're in that situation. And when you see your enemy's assistants or servants or machinery broken down, it's not your job to fix it by yourself, but you can't do nothing. You have to be able to roll up your sleeves, and with your enemy, soon to be your former enemy, you need to lift the burden together.